To this now, Water and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu, together with Deputy Minister David Mahlobo, visited the Vaal Dam and the Vaal Barrage operated by the Rand Water and surrounding areas earlier today. The visit was to assess the damage caused following the recent floods in the area. 12 sluice gates were opened last month, and of course this was happening as heavy rainfall continued. Communities along the Vaal Dam Banks had to be evacuated as the area was flooded. Now, Deputy Minister David Mahlobo joins us live now. Thank you so much for your time, Deputy Minister. You are on the ground. How extensive is the damage? What's the situation looking like?
Thank you very much to Mangete and to your viewers. Today we're with Minister Mchunu. We started in Metsimahulu on the site of the Vaal Dam, and we did an assessment. The inclement weather conditions and the rains that we received, they will be above the normal average. And understandable, that Vaal Dam is a catchment of water from various rivers like your Rietspruit, your Suikerbos, your Klipspruit, and that water comes from upstream around Johannesburg, but also coming from other sides of Mpumalanga. And that rain that happened between the 15th and the 18th of February caused a lot of devastating impact. And the way the dam has been designed is not designed like other dams that has a spillway immediately where water is flowing at about 100% full, and then it starts to flow over. But in this case, a capacity of the dam was built to be able to cushion that water, hold it, and it could actually hold that water between 97% to 99%. It was at a time at around 120-something%. And when it started flowing, we had to release the water, and Rand Water, they worked very well with the communities on the ground, especially the CPF, the police in terms of evacuation. And we're very pleased that they tried to minimize issues of fatalities, especially around the barrage, no fatalities that were there. But we know that there is one person that was confirmed to have passed on and drowned. One person also passed on, but the police will have to confirm what was the nature of that. But what we need to know is that the water, normally in terms of its flow, it had to go beyond the normal river banks. It was flowing beyond the river banks, nearly more than 100 meters in terms of expansion. But at the very same time, when it has to go to our dam, it had to be rechanneled for within a space of about 20 meters. Therefore, we could see that the water was overflowing. But our teams on the ground of Rand Water, working with the Disaster Management Center, both of Metsimahulu and SABC, they did their level best, because if they never managed the two systems, they have managed. Many people have died. But at the very same time, there's a matter we need to discuss as South Africans. There are a number of South Africans that have chosen to encroach into the floodline, which is the red zone, in terms how far you could be in a position to build within the river course. Some of them, they're actually less than 1:50-year floodline, 1:100. But at the very same time, there's Rand Water pipes there that they need to respect.
Pardon me for coming in there, and I'm going to come to that point in just a moment. But when we talk about, these gates, there was, of course, some criticism leveled against government here, as much as, some water experts were saying that this was the best way to deal with the situation in order to preserve the infrastructure, because it was critical for the sluice gates to be opened. But others are saying that did it have to get to a point where the water reached the levels that it had to reach, and opening 12 sluice gates at the same time? Is there no system that is open to, the fact that you open them for some time, you close them in order to avoid possible flooding?
The dam design, some of the people, Mangete, they're speaking without a real experience being on the ground to assess. The way our dams are designed in terms of management of risk and disasters, that dam is not a dam that actually is built to have a spillway. A spillway is when the dam actually gets full to be 100%, the water started to overflow automatically. But that dam, it was designed in many years ago, around the 1916, commissioned around 1923. The dam wall has been raised for more than 3 times. At a particular point, it was raised by 9 meters, around in the 80s, about 6.5 meters. Therefore, it allows to actually contain more water. And when it contains more water, that's why we are having those sluice gates. The people that are speaking that the gates were released at the same time is practically impossible. We're on site. When you start to open the sluice gates, it opens, normally it takes about between 10 to 15 minutes to open one in totality. Those sluice gates were not open at the same time. But what happened? There was a cloud that was hanging there around the Vaal for quite some time, in the morning until in the afternoon, and it rained non-stop. And when it rained non-stop, it caused what we call it a flash flood. And remember, the water was also coming from Mpumalanga around the Standard Tower. Every water is coming here, including the water that is coming from KwaZulu-Natal. Rispray is the main feeder into that particular issue. Then the water was coming at that particular speed.
Yeah.
Those employees working with the communities in the disaster center there, because there was an early warning system on the 14th of February that was done by South African weather services. Communication through WhatsApp and other mechanisms were done.
So
many people, they agreed to evacuate, but there are those that were arrogant who refused to evacuate.
So will they, those who had damage to their properties be assisted? Very briefly, because I do have another question leading to what you just said.
We have done an assessment at this point in time, and these matters are matters that are subject of investigation. And in our own interaction today with Minister Mchunu and with some of the people, there is one family that is within 1:20 meters, just inside the reef. Fortunately, that one has an insurance. They are looking at that particular issue. But some of the people that are around that dam have encroached into our floodplain are pensioners. They use their money to buy those issues, and working with the Disaster Management Center from both municipalities and the province of Gauteng.
So
after we've got all these issues, we'll make a determination how many are having insurances and how many are not covered by insurances.
So
but the most important...
Pardon me for coming in there. Listening to what you're saying then, and the design of the dam and everything else, then how do you prevent it from happening again? What is now in place?
What we have then discussed is that climate change is no longer a myth, it's here. We are going to have flash floods. One of the issues we discussed with our teams was to say we have to deal with the question of people that are encroaching in the floodplain, and discuss with them to say this is a dangerous point and be able to put another red zone. There is a red zone, and people divide the red zone. Increase the capacity of the Disaster Management Center. But from the management of the integrated Vaal River system, Manget, that system in terms of the circumference is equivalent to 850 square kilometers. It's the biggest catchment that we have in our land. We need to start to put a catchment management strategy, because various provinces are feeding into that particular system, and see many options whether we can capture water before it arrives in the Vaal Dam. But even above the Vaal Dam upstream, there are also other, what can I call them, balancing dams. And we need a lot of them so that we don't have those particular problems. But government alone, we need to be able to have adaptation measures for flooding on the basis of climate change and the cyclones that would be able to receive and strengthen our infrastructure.
And I do hope that you can come into studio one day and we'll talk about that, because that's a very important discussion. Let's wrap it up then very briefly. How many people and property would you say has been affected when you look at downstream towards the Northern Cape?
Our report at this stage, preliminary around the area where we were, more than 1,200 people were affected, and a number of houses were flooded, including a number of assets, whether it's boats, whether it's fridges, that were washed down down the stream. And our assessment continues, and we are hopeful that the weather condition will subside, because Cyclone Freddy was about to hit us, especially the other sides of Limpopo and Mpumalanga, especially when it hits Mpumalanga, it will actually come back to this side. And
All
when
right.
that particular assessment is done, we should be able to come to the studio and we share with your viewers and listeners what are the steps that we are taking in terms of the rescue mission and post-reconstruction rehabilitation program. But more importantly, the first question you asked about prevention, because this is going to happen again and again, and we should be in a position to be ready to deal with it.
I'm going to hold you to that for you to come to studio and we have this conversation, because even building along the flood lines, one wonders, where's the municipality when all of this is happening? Where are the officials? Because surely this is not happening without them knowing. But let's leave it there with you for now, and do hope that we talk again soon and we look at, as you say, the measures that need to go into this now, because climate change is a reality. It's here. It cannot be something that is still seen as a myth. Let me thank you for your time. That is Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo.